Let's freaking go. Go to Hades, Ole Miss. Welcome into the PHL live stream. We have a lot to get to and not a lot of time. As many of you know, throughout the week, I have not been feeling the absolute best. So I reached out to a very special guest, a former coworker of mine, who will be joining us here in just a moment. So obviously, as far as LSU news is concerned, the biggest thing is Armani Goodwin will be healthy and ready to go for LSU on Saturday. Now, how much does he play? I don't know, because obviously John Emery and Williams have been amazing for LSU. And then obviously, you know, this was a story leading into it. How much is Harold Perkins actually going to play? You know, because obviously Tennessee schemed Harold Perkins out of the game. Schemed him out. One of the best players in the SEC this year is a true freshman. So Brian Kelly acknowledged that they're going to try and just play Harold Perkins wherever they can play him against Lane Kiffin's really explosive offense. So we have that to get to. Once again, Super Chat will go straight to your question. And obviously, we're going to talk anything and everything Ole Miss. And the one man that I know to reach out to talk Ole Miss athletics is a man that used to be one of the most talented people I ever worked with. And we used to do a podcast together on the now defunct SEC Country, and he is now on the Ole Miss beat. So he used to cover LSU, and now he covers Ole Miss. I need some clap emojis in the chat as we welcome in Rob G. We welcome in the Hold Vet. We welcome in Hal, Tony, LA Mom, Skipper, Cliff. I know a lot of you are watching the Saints game as well as this, but I want you to give me some clap emojis in the chat. Let's go. Let's go. Bring it in, my buddy. Nick Suss. Sussay.
Hey, friends.
So, Nick has been covering Ole Miss for how long now, Nick?
This is my fifth year, fifth football season.
And tell us what it's been like covering Lane Kiffin on a daily basis.
Like, the wild thing is he has this public personality that everybody knows about him of like, oh yeah, he's a Wild West gunslinger of a guy. He's like the most introverted person I've ever covered. Like, this dude knows when to turn on the charm. He's really good at coming out here, and if he tactically has something he needs to say, he'll say it. But like, dude, he's not the guy. He's not Joey Freshwater running around town anymore. This is a dude who is a father of 3 teenagers who is in Oxford to coach, and he's doing a damn fine job of it. I mean, to hop off the objectivity thing for a while, this is the second time in 60 years Ole Miss has started 7-0. You give them credit for this turnaround in year 3. But yeah, man, the excitement usually happens on Saturdays between the lines. Other than that, he is just another Saban assistant who is just another dude putting up wins. Like, that's what's happening more than anything else is the flair and the flash of the 2009 Tennessee Vols. That's the past. Now it's just, oh yeah, it's another team scoring 40 points a game and putting up 500 yards a game, and they're unbeaten in the SEC, and good for them.
The Master Blaster is here. We say hi to the Master Blaster. We say hi to Jared, Frank, the whole crew. How? What's good? So, Nick, first question here. What has shocked you the most about Ole Miss's 7-0 start?
I don't know. Like, I came into this year thinking they're going to run all over everybody. And that's what they've done. They're averaging 271 rushing yards a game. That's insane. That's absurd. They ran for 448 against Auburn last week. But I don't know. The defense really surprised me the first 5 weeks. And then it's been kind of more of what I'd thought the last 2 weeks. I think their secondary is really good, but that's also something I kind of expected. The passing game is fine, which is kind of what I expected. I mean, coming into this year, we knew their first 7 games, the worst case scenario, they'd be 6-1. Because there was no way they were going to lose to Troy or Central Arkansas or Georgia Tech or Tulsa or Auburn or Vanderbilt. The one game that was the toss-up was Kentucky, and they won it by a field goal, 22-19. So they're sitting at 7-0 like they should be. Now they have 5 games left. Those 5 games at LSU, at Texas A&M, home against Alabama, at Arkansas, home for the Egg Bowl. Have they proven anything yet? Sure, they're bowl eligible 7 weeks into the year. They're 7-0. They're exactly where they should be. But do they still have a ton to prove? Sure, they've played one SEC West team, and it's what, October the 20th? So there's still a lot this team has to show.
Better running back, Quinshon Judkins, Zach Evans, or is it too close to tell?
It's still Evans right now. Like, I will tell you this, what you're going to get from Judkins every play is a little bit more consistent. Like, he's going to run so damn hard every single play, and it's gonna be fantastic. Evans, the dude's just complete, man. I mean, I think Kuiper has him as the number 2 running back in this year's class. He's a dude who does everything well. There's a reason he was a 5-star 3 years ago, and there's a reason why every time he touches the ball, he's a home run threat today. But you combine the two of them, and not to mention the quarterback ran for 115 yards last week while those guys both went for 130 plus. They got a lot of running players there. I mean, that's the strength of this team. And you look at an LSU team that gave up 265 on the ground to Tennessee, gave up 210 to Florida, and I know a bunch of it was the one play from Anthony Richardson, but that's still back-to-back games they've given up 200 rushing yards, and that's the one thing about this matchup that I think Ole Miss is probably licking its chops about.
Jackson Dart going for 115 as well. And, you know, what's very interesting is if you go to Nick Suss's Twitter account, it's not a lot of fluff. He tweets out a bunch of very interesting stat blast. And LSU and Ole Miss, probably more than all the other SEC West teams this year, Nick, transfer portal heavy.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, when you really think about it, you can make a case Ole Miss, and I know this is going to sound crazy for LSU fans, Ole Miss is more affected this year by the transfer portal than LSU as far as like
I don't even
first year contract.
I think it's clear. Yeah.
It's crazy. And I think to me, that's probably the most impressive thing about what Lane's been able to do, right? This is a the system is still working with brand new players. So tell us what you think about Lane's play calling and how, you know, he does a good job of attacking the weak spots of the defense. We saw Brian Kelly talk about that. And talk to us how you feel about Jackson Dart's development from the start of the season to where we are right now.
Yeah, I mean, with the portal stuff, if you count players changing positions, I think last week they started 11 guys who didn't play, who either weren't on Ole Miss last year or didn't start at that same position last year on offense. Because they got Nick Broker and Jeremy James and Caleb Warren all returning starters on the offensive line, but they're all playing different positions from last year. Jonathan Mingo, the one receiver people remember, he was hurt for 8 games last year. It's not really a true starter. It's a lot of new people. And the fact that they are going this fast, and by fast, I just simply mean the tempo of this offense. There was a point this season, and I haven't run the math in about 2 weeks, but there was a point this season they were snapping the ball every 19.5 seconds. Like sub 20, that's something Chip Kelly's never achieved. That's something that no Lane Kiffin team has ever done before. You're talking peak early 2010s Baylor level speed of getting to the ball and snapping it. And that's remarkable for a team that has absolutely no year-over-year consistency. You credit it to the play call, and you credit to the aggression. You give Kiffin the credit for it. But you ask about Dart, you ask about the cohesion of the offense. The problem still comes down to they're not perfect. Like Ole Miss, because of the speed at which they run, when they fail, they go 3 and out in 28 seconds. Like it's frustrating at times for Ole Miss fans, and I've experienced that with fans screaming at me confidently. But you're either going to have a 13-play, 78-yard drive that ends in a touchdown and only lasted 2 minutes and 19 seconds, or you're probably going to go 3 and out. And the other team's going to get the ball back after scoring.
That's the amazing thing to me is like, you know, so the story last week versus Auburn was, you know, the 3 rushers, the stat you looked up, 24 teams haven't had a single 115-yard rusher, and Ole Miss had 3. What was interesting, it was a passing game early on that helped loosen things up for them as well. So LSU's defense, while they've struggled with the run and while they've struggled, you know, bringing ball carriers down, they've also struggled giving up explosive plays over the top, especially early on in games. So give us an idea of what Jackson Dart can do vertically through the air.
Yeah, Ole Miss is a team that I don't think they're going to have an intermediate passing attack. They're going to run the ball and they're going to try and hit you over the top. They're either going to say, okay, we'll run it if you give us a light box, or you're stacking the box, let's go deep. The Vanderbilt game was the ultimate example of that for Dart, where I think he threw for 448 in that game, 3 or 4 touchdowns. And Ole Miss had 3 one-play touchdown drives against Vanderbilt. I don't need to underscore just how remarkable that is, but 3 different drives where the first play they called was a touchdown is
Right.
remarkable. It's almost impossible to replicate. And they were all pass plays. It was all Jackson Dart did exactly the right thing. And Jonathan Mingo got open deep. They found the matchups. They did the right things to hit him over the top. But that's kind of what this Ole Miss offense does. I think Brian Kelly actually talked about it this week. I think he referred to Lane Kiffin's superpower as scouting your opponent's weakness. Of you have to self-scout as well as anybody else. Because if you don't self-scout, if you don't know your biggest weakness, Lane does, and he's going to attack it. Just frustratingly pinpoint, oh, your safety's got a bum ankle. Let's go at that ankle every play. Oh, your defensive end is slow off the ball. We're going to run straight at him. And that's what this offense is built around.
So for those that don't know, Nick and I used to, work together. If you are new, used to be on the LSU beat. I did not tell you this beforehand, but I actually released a full free podcast episode, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get podcasts, on exactly what you just said, Nick. That full quote from Brian Kelly about how good Lane Kiffin is between the headsets and scouting your opponent. I did a whole episode on why I love Lane Kiffin. I personally love him because he finds ways to move the football. It's not always the same way how he's going to nickel and dime you, and that's what really impresses me. So, that wasn't planned right there. I was kind of weird. You see, that's that sussy connection, baby. Let's go, like the good old days. So go on ahead, check it out. Our podcast episode, iTunes, Spotify, on my full thoughts on Lane Kiffin's scouting abilities. Let's move to the defensive side of the football. What really stands out to me, Suss, is 95 is a really big time player. His name slips my mind. I remember numbers on defense more than names. 95, yeah, Robinson and 15, really good defensive ends. The thing that kind of shocked me was how good their in play has been when y'all lost Sam Williams when Ole Miss lost Sam Williams this offseason.
Yeah, and the fun thing is you watched that Auburn game, you saw 15 Jared Ivey, who played out of his mind. You saw 95 Tavius Robinson, who played out of his mind. Somebody you didn't see, Cedric Johnson, who didn't play against Auburn, is their best edge rusher. And Lane Kiffin calls him their best defensive player. So the difference for this Ole Miss defense compared to the Ole Miss defenses that you guys are probably used to seeing is depth. For 5, 6, 7 years coming out of the Hugh Freeze era, the biggest problem Ole Miss had was they had superstar talent. They just didn't have anybody behind them. They could have A.J. Brown, DK Metcalf, Elijah Moore, Sam Williams, Matt Corral. They could have NFL dudes, but their second player was replacement level at best. Now they've got 3 defensive ends who I think could play just about any snap for an SEC team. They've got 2 defensive tackles they trust. They've got 4 linebackers they trust. Dude, this team has 5 safeties that they want to start. So much so, I don't know if you guys saw this news story. It's like a silly thing that they do. 3 of the safeties play a 3-way game of rock, paper, scissors before every game to decide who gets to start. Because the coaches are just wow, I don't care. 2 of you guys figure it out. Figure it out amongst yourselves. I don't want to be the person who gets yelled at. They have depth that you should actually genuinely think is going to make this team better. The problem is they don't have Sam Williams. They don't have Chance Campbell. They don't have that number 1 true star who's going to make plays. And here's the biggest example. Their biggest weakness this year, I would say, and this is very much going to feed into the LSU audience that wants to hear this. Their biggest weakness this year has been mobile quarterbacks have not been able to get brought down. Like, scrambling has been their biggest weakness. And I'm not saying designed run plays. I am saying when the quarterback breaks contain and has to improvise. They gave up 44 yards after contact to Robbie Ashford. They gave up 38 yards after contact to Braylon Braxton, who is Tulsa's backup quarterback. Vanderbilt knew this and used Mike Wright, their backup quarterback, in designed Wildcat packages to get the defense playing side to side. And Jayden Daniels leads the country in scramble yards, on rushing yards on designed passing plays. Jayden Daniels leads the country in leads all quarterbacks in the country in total rushing yards after contact. These are the things that Ole Miss has struggled with, and it's a situation where, just like I talked about, LSU's weakness in stopping the run fits perfectly with Ole Miss's strength. Ole Miss's defensive weakness of not being able to contain dual threat quarterbacks fits perfectly with what LSU thrives on.
Very interesting. So when I did a rewatch of the Auburn Ole Miss game, Robbie Ashford, it's just typical. He's getting better. I did not think he'd be, where he is right now. And a lot of it was, the scrambles that he made. He's truly special with the ball in his hands. And Jayden obviously is a better runner than him. So it is very, very, very interesting. As far as, you mentioned the safeties, as far as the corners are concerned, Nick, I'm sure you're familiar. You were covering the team when Kayshon Boutte did what he did versus Ole Miss, a few years ago.
I don't think he stopped running yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And, this last week versus Florida was the first time we actually got to see LSU's receivers actually having the chance to make plays on jump balls. So give us an idea of how Ole Miss's passing defense has been overall this year. And how do you think their corners and nickel dime defensive backs match up against LSU's really good receivers?
So the two corners that you're going to see almost every play are DeAndre Prince, who you guys might be familiar with. This is his fourth year in college. He's been at Ole Miss for 3 of them. Started his freshman year, went to JUCO his sophomore year, came back his junior and senior year. It's a weird story. But he's a good player. If you look at SEC StatCat, which is a website that I actually would highly endorse if you've never seen it, he does really good work. I think his name's Clark.
Yeah, we talk about him all the time. Yeah, Clark's a good buddy. Yeah,
I think StatCat has DeAndre Prince rated number 1 in the SEC in like havoc rate caused by cornerbacks or something like that. He's like DeAndre Prince has done a good job this year. The other cornerback is a true freshman, Davison Igbinosun, a 4-star from New Jersey. He was the number 1 recruit in Jersey last year, and he came down to Oxford and won a starting job against a 5th-year senior immediately. Like, he's been starting since day 1, and he's one of the most sure-handed open field tacklers I've seen, and for that to be true of a true freshman is really rare. He's got a lot of length. He gets thrown at a lot because people aren't throwing at Prince as much. But I think the corners are going to hold up pretty well. The thing is, Ole Miss runs that 3-2-6 defense that you see from Arkansas, that you see from Iowa State. They don't pack the box. They're going to put 6 DBs on the field almost every play. 2 of those DBs are safeties who like to play in the box, Ladarius Tennis and Otis Reese, so they'll migrate down a little bit. But the coverage is much more going to be, hey, look, what they want to do is get you into 3rd and long. And that means play really aggressive on 1st down to try and force a 2nd and 12. Play a little bit less aggressive on 2nd down to try and force you into 3rd and 8. And if you've got 3rd and 8 and you have to throw into a secondary with 6 DBs on the field, they're confident they're going to win. That doesn't always work. And just like I said with the offense, where the flip side of the 13-play, 75-yard drive is a quick 3-and-out, they're trying to force that quick 3-and-out on defense. But the flip side is, if you keep chunking 4 yards at a time, if you go 1st and 10 to 2nd and 4 to 3rd and 1 to 1st and 10 to 2nd and 6 to 3rd and 2 to 1st and 10, Vanderbilt ran an 8.5-minute scoring drive on Ole Miss. Vanderbilt. I mean, it's there for the taking. But
right.
Ole Miss has won more often than it's lost defensively this year. They turned Kentucky's offense into nothing. I mean, Kentucky couldn't move the ball after the first drive of the third quarter. They completely took away a lot of, like, Tulsa came into Oxford with the number one passing offense in the country, and they threw for like 170 yards against Ole Miss. I mean, there are things that Ole Miss, just like Lane Kiffin can scout your weakness on offense, he can scout your weakness on defense too. That said, it's a little bit less consistent than the offense.
Absolutely love it. Nick Suss joining us. Clarion Ledger is where you can read his stuff. But the best thing to do is follow him at Nick Suss. It's very easy, okay? I have always been a believer of Nick Suss, and as many of you know, I don't have a gazillion guests. I only have guests that I truly think will add to the conversation. So I'm really enjoying this conversation we are having here with Nick Suss. We only have him for a few more minutes. So if you do have a question and you want to for sure get an Ole Miss beat reporter's expert opinion on it, feel free to super chat it. I do think we are very interested in knowing what Ole Miss's return game has been this year. As far as I saw them get the onside kick last week versus Auburn, but how is Ole Miss, every facet of special teams, how has Lane Kiffin's Rebels been in that aspect?
Well, as you know, Lane Kiffin loves punting, so we'll focus on that for quite a while. They got an Australian punter. He's punted like 4 times this year. Kickoff, they try and boot it out of the back of the end zone every play. Maybe they'll see if something's different, if they think LSU is not quite as sure-handed back there, but more often than not, the strategy has been booted out of the back of the end zone. Kickoff return, it's been pretty strong. Dayton Wade, a transfer from Western Kentucky, has handled it. And I mean, he's averaging 20, 22 yards per return, just an average kickoff returner. Hasn't made any mistakes. Punt return has been shaky at times, not nearly as shaky as LSU's, but they have had, I think, 3 different guys go back there to return punts at various times this year. The defense doesn't force all as many punts as you'd expect for a defense that's only given up like 19 points a game. It's a lot more turnovers and 4 and outs than it is punts, but they've punted it well. They've covered the punts well. The special teams, I wouldn't say anything absolutely stands out to me other than the fact that the field goal kicker can actually hit kicks this year, but they haven't lost on special teams either.
Let's go to John Sibley here. Ask our distinguished guest if the baseball miracle is having a. I did want to ask this question. I see you wearing the Omaha hat. There you go. I love it. Yeah. So obviously, winning that first national championship was big, right? So I'm guessing you got to go to Omaha, which it's like the funnest event to cover. And do you actually believe this has done some positive good going into the football season?
No, but it's a fun narrative, so I'll talk about it. I don't know. Like, that was the stupidest thing that's ever happened. That I've covered the College World Series 3 times, covering 3 different teams. That second hat I put on was from when Mississippi State won it a couple of years ago, and I covered LSU when they went in 17. It's my favorite event, and I love college baseball so much. But look, what happened with Ole Miss this offseason, this baseball season, is proof that you just need a chance. Like, I got an advanced copy of their national championship book, and if I were to read you all of the things on the back cover, it's things like, "It's impossible to overstate the improbability of this championship run," writes USA Today. That one was me. That wasn't USA Today. And then things like, "These Rebels certainly did not take an easy route to the College World Series," writes CBS Sports. "A storybook ending no one saw coming for Ole Miss baseball," writes 247 Sports. This was just insane. Like,
it was.
This was a team that had no business being in the NCAA tournament, got in as the last team alive, and then, whoops, they became the best team I've ever seen. 2 starting pitchers that couldn't be touched, hitters that were just like magic finding the ball into space. There was when they played a Southern Miss in the Super after LSU was there. They were in the same stadium. There's a play, I think it's 2-0 in the 5th inning. Dylan DeLucia, their ace, is on the mound. He throws a pitch with 2 outs and the bases loaded. Southern Miss yanks it down the foul pole for a grand slam. Place goes nuts. Ump throws his arms up, foul. And everyone's like, how is that foul? That's a grand slam. It's a grand slam. They go to review. It's foul by this much. It's like a 6-minute review of them figuring it out. They call it foul. Next pitch, they come right out there. DeLucia blows 92 miles an hour past him, strikes him out, strands the bases loaded. They win that game 10-0. Like, the amount of just glitter up your butt crack that they had that entire run was remarkable. And again, I covered LSU's run to the finals in 2017. That made sense. They had superstars everywhere. They were great. I covered Mississippi State's run to the finals in 2021. That made sense. They had the best player in the SEC. They had 2 first-round picks on the mound. That made sense. Ole Miss was a patchwork team of a coach who was absolutely going to get fired, a bunch of fifth-year seniors, and a couple of, like, a freshman pitcher and a JUCO pitcher who were just like, oh, we're the 2 best pitchers in college baseball? Okay. And they won. So has that transferred over to football? No, because the football team is confident and makes sense. The baseball team were a bunch of lovable goobers who couldn't lose.
I love it. I kept up with it some. I don't keep up with college baseball closely, but it was just crazy because, like, a little bit about me. So it's like a lot of my friends went to Arkansas, right? Yeah. And I was like, y'all aren't beating that team. Y'all are not beating that team. They could have beaten the 29 Yankees. They could have beaten anybody. They were that freaking hot. And Oklahoma was so freaking hot. And nope, not beating this team. Not beating this team at all. But yeah, for me, I do think it did allow fans to breathe in a sigh of relief. And this is why I really like the super chat. Not only is our first super chat of the evening. Thank you so much, John Sibley. But also it does make it a little bit easier, right? You can look, especially when Mississippi State won it and they got their national championship. I'm sure it made Ole Miss fans feel better about themselves. Now,
I'll tell you this before we get off topic. I do a Twitter space every week, and last week I got a question from a fan that was pretty much, hey, is the "We Are Ole Miss" mantra dead? Do we not have to be negative and self-deprecating anymore? Can we, be happy and just enjoy that our team's good at stuff? And I got so much people just like, no, it's not dead. Don't put that evil on us. The second you say we're happy, we're screwed, man. And it got a spin-off Twitter space the next day where Alex McDaniel, who some of you guys might know from Twitter, hosts an hour-and-a-half chat where it's me and her and Bunky Perkins and a bunch of people from all corners of Ole Miss Twitter just debating, is it okay to feel optimism? And that's what's changed about it since they won the College World Series. They went to a Sugar Bowl last year. They won a College World Series. They start the next season 7-0 in the top 10. And people were like, this is not what Ole Miss fans know. They're just not reacting rationally because if you're Alabama, you're used to a 7-0 start. If you're Ole Miss, the only other time they've started 7-0 in the last 60 years was 2014. And, I mean, that ended. Their 8th game was in Baton Rouge, and they lost 10-7. So now they got their 8th game in Baton Rouge just like they did in 2014, and everyone's like, oh, it's deja vu. We're just back where we were, man. Bo Wallace is going to throw a pick as time expires. I don't know. It's weird.
I didn't know Archie played baseball.
He did. He wasn't necessarily a superstar by any stretch, but he played baseball.
That's cool. Yeah. I remember, when I lived in Baton Rouge, the phrase on your hat, Omaha stands for Ole Miss at home again.
Yeah.
That is, it's so crazy. But when I think about Ole Miss athletics, I was like, okay, the greatest Ole Miss athlete of all time isn't Eli Manning. It's Marshall Henderson. I loved Marshall Henderson, the perfect college basketball player. Perfect. Not good enough to play in the league. Everybody knew he wasn't going to play in the league. but the Auburn thing, I'll never forget that. Never forget it.
Yeah.
Never forget it.
Oh, he is the most Ole Miss athlete ever. I don't know if he's the best, but if they ever pick a mascot again, I would just make it Marshall Henderson. That is the definitive Ole Miss athlete. That is the attitude. Chad Kelly's another one of just like that attitude
Chad
that
Kelly.
like you're not a heel, but you're a face with heel tendencies. That's Ole Miss. When Ole Miss is at its best, Matt Corral was like that, where it's just like you like him, you root for him, but you're like, I kind of like him because he's got that weird edge.
Right.
That's kind of what makes Ole
like
Miss great sometimes.
Yeah. Look, obviously, I have friends who went to Ole Miss or big Ole Miss fans or whatever. But I wanted to ask you this, okay? I know with your job and you not being a native Oxfordian, or somebody from Oxford. I tried to use a fancy word. Tell me this, your honest thoughts on the Grove.
You telegraphed that question from a mile away, man. I had a lot of time to prepare for that. Look, I love the Grove, but that's because I love my friends who I spend time with on the Grove. In the same way that when I get into Baton Rouge on Saturday, I'm going to go straight to a tailgate where I know people and I'm going to love it because tailgating is a communal experience. The great thing about the Grove, and if some of you guys haven't been, I really endorse going trying it. The great thing is everything is on top of itself. It's a COVID nightmare, but other than that, it is just like a joyous, joyous occasion where everybody's packed on top of each other. Everybody's helping each other out. Everybody is sharing and letting you into your tent and saying, oh, come over. They see somebody in a road uniform. It's very much, oh, come experience this. It's very civil. It's not like people are out there playing drinking games, playing cornhole. It's very much you're in your tent and you're tailgating. It's the criticism that LSU fans will give it, and it's a fair criticism, is there's too much decorum. Like, why is it so fancy? Where's the fun? But the fun is the experience. The fun is the shared 30,000 people being on top of each other. That's really the fun part of it. And I've written articles comparing and contrasting the Grove with LSU's tailgating scene before. I intimately enjoy both of them, and I would say the Grove is a more unique experience, and LSU is a little bit more visceral of an experience. But like, I think that if other fan bases had fans who were as intense as LSU fans, they could pull off LSU's tailgating scene. I don't think anybody could pull off the Grove but the Grove. Now, nobody has fans like LSU fans, so that's why LSU's tailgating is so special. But the Grove, just the fact that it is 2.5 acres or whatever it is, all packed on top of each other, 20, 30,000 people all in that one area, that's what makes it so remarkable.
Are you shocked that the point spread went Ole Miss -2 to now LSU +2?
No, not at all. This is LSU playing a nationally televised game at Tiger Stadium against a team that has won one time in Tiger Stadium in the last 20 years. Like, look, Ole Miss is number 7 in the country. Ole Miss is undefeated. Ole Miss has played well this year. I think if LSU played Ole Miss's schedule, they'd probably be 6-1 instead of 5-2. I think if Ole Miss played LSU's schedule, they'd probably be 6-1 instead of 7-0. I think they're pretty even teams, maybe not on the talent perspective, but the output perspective. Did you see that tweet that was floating around this week of the projected final score of this one being 29.51 to 29.51? Like,
stats of war. Yeah, and it was 28.51, but it's still the same thing. Your point still remains the same.
Of it being dead heat, dead even. I mean, I understand why LSU is getting the edge because it's the home team. It played really well last week. The matchups do give LSU a little bit of favor. I would say it will be easier for Ole Miss to dictate the pace of play than for LSU to. But that doesn't mean it's more likely. Like, Ole Miss can exert itself pretty easily, but that doesn't mean I think it's necessarily going to happen.
So this is one of our SEC country listeners, Mike, from back in the day. What was that? That was Orgeron. What year? It was 2016 or 20? No, it was 2017. It was the Matt Canada year that you and I were together.
Yeah.
God, that is a while ago. This is an SEC country original right here. Good to see you, Mike.
Unless he's requesting Susie, in which case Susie is not here.
No, I know Mike. He used to always come up to me and say, "Sussy!" I don't know if anyone could find the old podcast, but they could go find it. How many times I've said "Sussy"? And the funny thing about you, there you go, Sussy Sus, Sussy Sus. Oh man, God bless. The funny thing about it though, Nick, is like I remember doing the show and the Orgeron tenure and Orgeron size at the Ole Miss and all of that, and just amazing how all this stuff just now. And then Lane Kiffin's now the coach of Ole Miss. It's just amazing, these storylines. It's absolutely crazy. But people don't understand your humor. You have a bunch of these random one-liners. You have this quirky sense of humor, and I have to remind you of one of your jokes.
Yeah.
This is just the corniest dad humor in the world. When the Saints got the Nickelodeon game versus the playoff Bears game, and you said, in honor of the Saints playing the Bears on Nickelodeon, the Saints need to go re-sign Nick Toon.
Yeah. I mean, they had to. There's no other option there. I will give you this credit, buddy. You say you can't find the old podcasts, which I can't either. But so I do a weekly hit on an Ole Miss podcast, and we have devolved into this thing where the show's about to end and the host says, "Okay, tell me a story of when you felt awkward." And then I just do a 10-minute spiel of just like, here's an uncomfortable thing that happened to me in the past, which that was how we started shows.
Exactly.
You were just like, "Hey, before we talk about sports, didn't you say one time you went on a weird first date?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, let's do that." So I'm kind of just rehashing our 5-year-old bits where like today I told a story that if you guys have the longest memories ever and listen to those shows, I told a story that was a hit on your podcast about the time me and my roommate barefoot walked through the drive-through of the Wendy's across from the Albertsons in Baton Rouge, and my roommate was wearing nothing but a silk kimono. And I'm just telling that story on a podcast today, and I'm like, I've done this before. Like, this is just me reliving the one team, one podcast life that was it was fun, but man, was SEC country not a well-managed operation.
It wasn't. The funny thing about that, so Brandon Walker hired me to work there, and now he's with Barstool Sports, and he's big now, whatever. And he spotted me at SEC Media Days, and he goes, I went up to him and I was like, "Hey, you don't have an LSU podcast? Hire me." And he was like, "All right, cool." And that's how it started. And our podcast was really good. Like, it was one of our favorite things. You know, for those that don't know, it used to be me, you, and Sam Spiegelman, along with Alex Hickey. And all of us have moved on and are still in the industry. I can't say that about everybody that was there, right? Not everybody landed on their feet, but the LSU crew, we enjoyed it. Like, we really had a lot of fun with it. Like you had these crazy stories about the what was the Waffle House story for New Year's Eve? You had the weirdest New Year's Eve thing, and I loved it.
When I covered I guess it was the Tax Slayer Bowl at the time on New Year's Eve 2013 into New Year's Day 2014. I was with 3 people, and they were all asleep, and it wasn't my car that we took to the game. So it's like 9:00, and I haven't had dinner yet. And the only thing that I could walk to from the hotel was the Waffle House in the parking lot. And I'm from Georgia. I love Waffle House. So I'm like, yeah, I'll have dinner at Waffle House on New Year's Eve. That's a cool way to ring in the new year. And I walk down there. I'm like 19 or 20 years old at the time, and it's 2013, so I didn't like think, oh man, I need to bring my headphones. I need to be constantly engaged. It was a simpler time where I could just eat a waffle in peace. But I sit in there and I'm just calmly waiting for my food to be ready. And some guy walks in holding $3 and says, "Yo, how many times can I play that Drake song?" The answer is 12. You can play Hold On, We're Going Home by Drake 12 times with $3 at a Waffle House. And he did. He played Hold On, We're Going Home 12 times in a row while I sat there calmly cutting an all-star special and thinking to myself, this is the best way to ring in a new year. Because on the one hand, you're at Waffle House, you're enjoying yourself, you're like, this is incredible, I'm having a great meal. On the other hand, you're listening to Hold On, We're Going Home by Drake 12 consecutive times. So you're like, oh, next year's got to be better than this, man. Auld Lang Syne, old acquaintance we forgot. So I started doing that as a tradition of going to a Waffle House by myself on New Year's Eve and putting it in my earbuds. I'm not going to make other people listen to Drake's Hold On, We're Going Home 12 times in a row, but I will. And I don't do it every year, but a lot of years I will go to a Waffle House by myself and celebrate New Year's. I don't think my fiance is going to let me do that anymore. I think
no.
Spend New Year's with her.
I love it, man. Because like everyone on this channel knows I'm weird. Like I have these weird things. I think that's why you and I enjoyed. We love college football. We love football. I know you love the NFL as well, but we didn't take it too serious. We just always had so much fun on the podcast. And I really, really appreciate you and all your success. And the best thing, you guys know, and this is funny, Nick, I'm going to be as honest as I possibly can with you. We've never had a bad guest. We have never had a bad guest. And you have continued that trend of never having a bad guest. But the thing is, I only have people on here who I know are going to be great because, that's just it. And I really appreciate your time. Yeah.
No, I'm always happy to do this. I never want to host my own podcast because I don't want to have to deal with stuff like that. But if I could be a professional podcast guest, a live show guest, I am just absolutely enthralled by the concept of Miley Cyrus my way in like a wrecking ball. Talk about obscure stats and weird Waffle House orders for 30 minutes and then go on with the rest of my night and just like watch a Jim Brooks movie when I'm done or whatever I'm going to do with the rest of my night. So yeah, it is an absolute delight to get to be, this is my fourth podcast or radio or Twitter hit I've done in the last 24 hours. That's why I've had to been sipping this drink the whole time. I am out of a voice, but I love it. It is a blast.
Well, I appreciate you. Once again, best thing you can do to support our guests, especially one like Nick Suss, is go give him a follow on the twitters.com. Okay. At Nick Suss is where you can get really professional Ole Miss coverage. Nick is not an Ole Miss fan. This is what he does professionally. So if you want objective coverage of what Lane Kiffin's been able to do, including this pretty ridiculous stat, Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma State, and North Carolina State. Very interesting. I want to guess the Wolfpack. That is the absolute best way you can do to support our guest, who has really done a great job tonight. Jared, thank you so much for your very generous super chat here. And Nick, go enjoy the rest of your evening, man. It's good to hear from you, brother.
Yeah, stay in touch, buddy. We'll talk soon, okay?
All right, Sess. There's Nick Sess right there. Telling you, we only have great guests. That's it. So Mike was part of me, technically. He was with me during the SEC country years. Nick is very talented, like uber talented. And that's going to be a name you're going to hear quite a bit. As you can tell, he is able to retain a lot of information. We didn't get into his mind of how well he can memorize stats and all of that. He is truly a special college football writer. And I'm very happy to call him a friend. So, as you can tell, I'm congested. I won't go too long. Obviously our live streams go on for 2 hours. Normally we probably won't go that long. I do want to rest. I'm took a bunch of meds before this because I really was feeling like trash today. So Mick has gone to Huddle House. I don't know. A few times I've had Huddle House, Mick, it has not gone well during the meal and after the meal, if you know what I'm saying. Joshua, good to see you. The Saints are kind of bumming me out. I'm glad to know I am your backup plan. I'm kidding. Look, I actually did have a Saints jersey up, but it is this man's birthday today, Jeremy Hill. Shout out to Jay Hill. He had a birthday party tonight. I was invited. I couldn't go. So I'm hanging out here with you lovely people. Happy birthday to our buddy Jay Hill. And yeah, it's good. Everybody's been a little under the weather. So, yeah. But as you can tell, the main reason I wanted to have Nick on, though, is because you can tell I really enjoy his presence. I really, really do. And, yeah, sometimes you work with some really cool, interesting people. And you can tell Nick is kind of like me. We're different. It's just those are kind of people I like to have on, right? We have very obscure guests from time to time. How old? What are the poll results? LSU special teams is winning the poll 58% to 42%. Oh, it's Mickey Mantle's B-Day today? There you go. Birthday, Jay Hill. Trusty. Yeah, he's the best. Not gonna lie, he's the best. I talk to him pretty frequently now. It's kind of strange to say that that's one of your best buddies. But it's cool. It's definitely cool. I never would have thought one of my favorite LSU players would become a really good friend of mine. But and I don't like throwing that word friend around because especially if it's someone like him. But it's cool. Not gonna lie, it's pretty cool. But yeah, I think he's 30. I think this is year 30 for him. So there you go. Nick's a really good guy too. Yeah. So it's cool, right? I'll share a few things about this LSU Ole Miss matchup. Just released a Power Hour LSU podcast, like I mentioned during the interview with Nick. I'm a Lane lover. I just am. I got a bro crush on this guy. He is my type of coach, right? Aggressive on fourth down. Check. Better on the offensive side of the football than the defensive side of the football. Check. 6.2 yard per play average. Check. Unique offensive scheme. Check. Offensive scheme that is flexible to the defense that you're playing. Check. Energetic. Check. Obviously wants to win a national championship. Check. Guy who's very enthusiastic about the history of the game. Check. A guy who's learned from some of the best coaches in the history of the game. Check. I mean, he checks all these boxes. Well, he's immature. So what? You heard Such at the beginning of the interview. He's not Joey Freshwater anymore. He's an adult. Such says, hey, if you're around him every day, he's kind of just normal, right? So yeah. Well, his dog has a Twitter account. Cool. Whose dog doesn't have a social media account? I can't look at Haley's social media anymore. It's Z. It's Z. Her Twitter handle needs to change to Z. Rodney Dangerfield. Life is like a roll of toilet paper. The closer you get to the end, the faster it unrolls. But he does have hubris. To get the popcorn ready thing was really bad last year. That was a little too much. I'm a lane guy. But that was pretty dumb to say. That was pretty dumb. Mick, I hope you're feeling better. So, there you go. Look out for number 1, but don't step in number 2. Wait, what is this? The best John Sibley Butler. It's kind of become one of my good buddies as well. I love our email convos. The best remedy, Carter, is boiling hot water with cayenne pepper and breathe it. If I tell you that a chicken dip stuff, look for the can beneath the wings. It's okay, Creek. It still sucks. Like, I have a throbbing headache. That's why, I messaged Nick. I was like, hey, I really need you tonight to carry the live stream. He was like, sure. I hadn't talked to Suss in a while. Like, I occasionally talk to him from time to time, but yeah. But like I mentioned in the podcast earlier today, I am perfectly fine with Brian Kelly. And in a lot of ways, Brian Kelly is a better hire than Lane. So, yeah, there you go. Y'all, I'm going to say something. I'm going to publicly say something here. Might have to block Zach from the channel because Zach saw all my Tyrann Matthews and said, well, I got to build a Tyrann Matthew collection now. So now me and him are going to be battling for all the rare Matthews. Well, little does Zach know. I'm just kidding. But here's something. I do want to publicly say this. Okay. I'll say this publicly. I am going to start refocusing some of my collecting efforts. Now that I've completed a Tyrann Matthew Rainbow and I have a good Matthew collection, I am going to start looking into different directions. I wanted to become like a big Tyrann Matthew collector. So I will share this bit of knowledge today. This card was sent to me by a viewer of the channel, and he was in the chat recently, and his name is Mint Condition. He's actually based in Baton Rouge, and he's one of the best Joe Burrow collectors in the country. So he actually sent me this card today. Black Pandora. Tyrann Matthew. Black Pandora is like a very rare insert parallel. And as you can see, it's got these, can't really see it because I don't have my good camera up. You see those black squares on it. It's like a really cool holographic card. It's so cool. Look at that thing. So this one's going to be up on the wall for a little bit, along with Zion, Drew, Jeter. So there you go. Oh man. I'm glad that my channel has been a source of relief for the colonoscopy crowd. Little did I know that would have been the channel. Yeah, Carter, who is your first sponsor? Well, I'm glad you asked, because the only thing better than a great colonoscopy. You know what's funny, Zach? I actually was looking at the light blue pulsar. I said no. I said to myself, look, Tyrann Matthew is always going to be your main PC, but I am saving my money and I'm starting to refocus my efforts. And I'm actually going to talk to you about a strategy that I have because I'm going to start getting more into basketball cards. So I'm actually going to need your advice because all I know really is football. Uh, but got to say something really quickly here. I do want to shout out our friends at the Presley Collection and PresleyCollection.com. Okay. LA Mom, there you go. The only person that loves Presley Collection more than me is LA Mom. Okay. I'm very happy to say that Anthony Starr Presley and I have, I'm sorry to say it, for those that just want to hate on greatness, we have re-upped our deal. We are really excited to continue with the Presley Collection and PresleyCollection.com. Some people just run it off. Okay, my singing is really bad, but you guys know the diamond rings and everything is what you need to make your significant other feel better. I don't care what the Alicia Keys had to say. Presley Collection and PresleyCollection.com. Engagement rings, check. Side piece rings, check. Kidding. You shouldn't cheat. But if you do need that, we will happily get you all set up with Anthony Starr Presley and the Presley Collection. Watches, necklaces, pendants, anything you want as far as diamonds, jewelry, anything like that is concerned. Before you make your next jewelry purchase, make sure you talk to me and I'll get you a one-on-one consultation today with Anthony Starr Presley and the PresleyCollection.com. I can assure you, I can get Haley in here right now. I could get her in here right now, and she'll tell you that our engagement ring, whenever we started looking for engagement rings, same week it was, and it felt divine, if you will. Anthony Starr Presley reached out to me, and we had started looking online for, well, what's the best engagement ring? What do we do here? What do we? It is so much easier to have an expert in the field to walk you through that process instead of just ordering something for a gazillion dollars online. I'm telling you, Anthony Starr Presley and PresleyCollection.com. Okay. So I'm sorry to hear that, LA Mom. I might have to get you a Presley Collection something. And we hope, I don't know what the lithotripsy. I'm gonna look that up really quickly. Oh, okay. That sounds, I looked it up. Hope it goes well. Well, Joe, that's what we do, man. We just chill. Dang, Creek is just dropping Rodney Dangerfield lines all night. I like it. So there you go. So in the next 5 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as I possibly can. Okay. Anything you want answered, I'll answer it for you in the next 5 minutes. If not, if you super chat, we'll keep it going all night long. Once again, thanks to our top super chatters tonight, Jared and John Sibley Butler, our only super chats of the night. Oh, today is my wedding anniversary. People who have committed triple murder haven't served this much time. John, big congrats to you. Obviously, a very momentous occasion. People can make that's so great. Z baby, yeah. Haley's. I don't think Haley's feeling too well either. Look at that. Everybody's telling John Sibley a very happy anniversary. You guys know we can't have live chats without John Sibley. Everybody watching the Saints game, missing out on the real fun here. Tony, what's good, Tony? Tony's been watching everything. Type Y for yes, type in for no. I need honest opinions on this, okay? You have listened to the Power Hour LSU podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or RSS.com. She went to Northwestern. It's good. New Roads, Louisiana. It's home for me, man. Love New Roads, man. I think Denley, who's in here from time to time, he's a New Roads guy too. So LA Mom says yes. Tony says no. Well, I'm glad I know this. Tony Creek, I've done 20 episodes, and it's separate from this. It's not the same thing you hear here, right? So yeah. Yeah, Chicago was phenomenal. It's a great city. It says yes. Okay. So this is where you can listen to every episode if you don't have iTunes or Spotify. I think it's also on TuneIn. You can go to rss.com/ the Power Hour LSU podcast. There you go. Chicken and grits. What's up? Looks like we're going to be hanging out for a little bit. What's good, Van? You missed out on my guest tonight. Every time I say, hey, we're going to end this early, there's always, it never fails. We're going to keep it going now. Just tweaking because you said basketball cards, but do you think Denbrock has got the play calling figured out? So Van and I were talking about this recently. So Van, you get to pick the next topic. Let me know. Yeah, for me, I am going to start getting more into basketball cards. I've fallen in love with Chris Paul cards and the Hornets rookie nostalgia aspect of it. So I'm going to need your advice big time, Nick. But yes, I do think Denbrock has figured some things out, but for me, and Van knows this, we've had private discussions about this, and it's essentially the same thing I share in our latest episode of this podcast, and I'll share it with you right now. The one thing I like about Lane Kiffin, okay, Van, let's talk about what the defense needs to do Saturday. The one thing I like about Lane is he does a really good job of making things look very complicated, but it is easy for his players, right? Like, for instance, just use an analogy here. Nick Suss, who was our guest earlier, we're talking about comedy. Like Chris Rock could tell a joke, and it seems like the joke he's saying is just very simple. But in actuality, if you're a comic, you know how complex it is, right? And I can get into how he times his wording and all of that. But it's easy for him, right? It's very simple. That is what Lane Kiffin does, right? It seems like what he's doing is very complex, but really it's not, right? It's he runs a lot of routes that floods a certain defender. So one receiver will take a corner with them. That's the deep third on cover 3. And if that receiver takes that corner with them, a receiver running a deep crosser will take that space, right? I just pretty much explained why cross, right? He does a really good job of all of that. Like, it's a lot of these things that he does. It just opens up a lot of space. It's different than what Tennessee does, right? Tennessee will spread you out. Lane is a little bit more situationally and formationally diverse, and he is just phenomenal. So defensively, what should LSU do? So last thing about Mike Denbrock's play calling here, Zach, is I do think Denbrock is a play caller who is still trying to figure out what's best for this offense. I do think a lot of what Florida did defensively helped us out. I think Patrick Toney and Corey Raymond is not coaching that Florida secondary well at all right now. They're just giving away too much easy stuff. And I think Denbrock's play calling was better. We did more play action. We got some things open a little bit easier. I like seeing us run a little bit more pistol formation, even if the play wasn't run out of pistol. We showed pistol, right? We did a better job of giving them different looks. I also felt like we did a better job with our pre-snap motion. LSU's amongst the SEC's leaders in pre-snap motion. They are number one in pre-snap motion. Ole Miss is ironically last, but we did more wide receiver pre-snap motion. Now, Van says, let's talk about what the defense needs to do Saturday. Ole Miss is first in the SEC in RPO, right? RPO percentage. They do a lot of these run-pass options, and Lane does a really good job of coaching his guys. Hey, if they give you this defense, this is what you should do. If they give you this look, this is what you should do. So what should the defense do? A lot of pre-snap motion when you can pre-snap motion. Now, it's tough when a team is running fast plays, but I think that's what they should do. What's this? So Amacat says, on a macro level, shut down the rush and force them to pass. Okay. I just think the key is just don't give up any explosive plays. That's the key. So, Van, to answer your question, I just think defensively, the key, there's a few things. The first thing, LSU needs to tackle better. Their ball carriers are really good at breaking tackles. I know the story for Ole Miss this year has been Quinshon Judkins, number 4. I do agree with what Nick Suss told us earlier. Even though Judkins' numbers are better than Zach Evans' numbers, Zach Evans is the better back. I do think Zach Evans is a little bit better at breaking tackles. I think Judkins is a little bit more of your consistent plotter between the tackles. And he's hit a lot of home runs just going straight up the gut. And Jackson Dart's a good quarterback. But I do think they've not played a defense with as much athleticism as LSU's defense. So we'll see what happens. Also, one more thing about Denbrock. I think this could be a big Jane Daniels scramble game. Nick Suss brought it up, and this is what showed in film for me as well. Their pass rush lane responsibility and contain responsibilities can be all over the place. They like to get very aggressive with their pass rush. I think Jane is going to feast on that and run for a lot of yards in this game. I really do think so. The big play percentage, and Brian Kelly has stressed that this week. We have given up way too many big plays. I think we have 2 interceptions against the Rebels. Do I have a pick? Well, John Sibley. Hal, you got to go subscribe to the Power Hour LSU podcast where you get my score prediction. It's called a tease in the business. Yeah, he talked about this tonight, Brian Kelly, as far as getting Harold Perkins more involved defensively. They don't. And he's saying, well, I don't want to put him at inside linebacker because it's a lot. Well, the guys that we have playing there aren't that much better than Harold Perkins, not knowing what he should be doing. I'm just being honest. So yeah, hopefully it's a lot of Perkins and a lot of Baskerville. But we'll see. Also, I think for this game, it's going to be very critical for our defensive tackles to not over pursue. What I think Lane is going to do is he is going to run the football a lot at Greg Penn. A lot. He is going to force Greg Penn to make a lot of stops. Our explosive runs that we've given up for touchdowns versus Mississippi State and versus Florida were runs to Greg Penn's side. Now, it wasn't entirely on him on those 2 touchdowns, but that's what they're going to do. But that is what they do. Okay. Ryan W., what's good, man? I'm not texting and driving. Please stay safe, my brother. Please, please, please. We want everybody to stay safe. Oh, God. Now you're going to get the chat all riled up. I don't understand why tonight has been the colonoscopy chat. I blame Mick for this. I knew when Mick brought it up, everybody's going to be like, well, let's talk about colonoscopies because that's what is. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to launch a different channel. We should all niche down, right? That's what every YouTube guru tells you. My new channel, Power Hour Colonoscopy with Carter the Power. Sponsored by Boudreaux's Butt Paste. There'd be a little turbulence. I love it. Your tailpipe is important, which is why you should you should shop at AutoZone. Huh? I butchered that. But yeah, to further talk about Van's point, a lot of the pass plays that go for explosives for Ole Miss has a lot to do with the play design. So what I mean by that is a lot of their explosive plays aren't like a Brian Thomas Jr. thing where he's jumping over the top of someone making a tough play. So yeah. William, good question. Once again, it's one of my favorite PHL photos. He's got the whole family in there. I love it. So he's got 2 PHL shirts and a Burrow shirt. I love it. Delhi is out and Major Burns is out. We're not going to get them back till the Alabama game. Delhi would have been really nice because Ole Miss's defensive line is good, but we'll see. I'm not gonna lie, this did kind of piss me off. We're gonna give Ole Miss a colonoscopy. Not that. Uh, that yeah, it would be nice to have Mason Smith for this game. What pissed me off was Ole Miss did a hype video earlier and it had Boosie music on it, and I was like, "Come on, please." But then again, I was like, "How many rappers are from Oxford, Mississippi?" I don't know. I don't know many hip hop artists named Fletcher. Uh, I would have liked. Yeah, I got the snottage in the cottage. I do. I know it's painful because you don't get to hear my lovely tones. Oh my God. Always designated driver. It's Big Crit from Oxford? Is he? Born in Meridian, Mississippi. Close enough. It's my age. I didn't know that. Set this Meridian. Waka Flocka? I'm I'm not the music person. Where's he from? Waka Flocka's from New York. I'm a Moscato girl. When I heard that's one of those hip hop songs that when you hear it for the first time, you're just like, God, that just sounds so good. I love the way you go, 'cause all I wanna do. David Banner. Yeah, Ole Miss just used David Banner. So I'm gonna be honest. When I went to the Grove, it was kind of mid. Not gonna lie. But then again, I only went once, and that was their worst team they've ever had. My phone was blown up with Saint stuff. Hunter, what's good? Hulk is from? Huh? All right, here's what we're gonna do. Once again, in the next 5 minutes, I'll answer as many questions as we possibly can. But if you super chat, we'll keep this thing going. Van super chat obviously kept it going for another 20 or so minutes. So yeah, we'll keep it going. What is he score now? The kid, what's good? Oh yeah. Looks like the kid needs to join the PHL T-shirt club. Let's see, which one do I want to give out tonight? Let's do this one. Next PHL T-shirt club member is getting a Jacob Hester autograph card right here from Sage. Okay. Next person that joins a PHL T-shirt club, you get a Jacob Hester auto. Giving out a lot of Hester autos. This one's kind of actually really cool. Part of the reason why I like these Hester cards and these players is because, like, I wore this gear when I played. I played around this time, and I miss the gray Nike lows. I miss that. All right, Creek, we'll see ya. God, man, everybody's just like just broken down. LSU needs a bye week. No, PHL needs a bye week. Oh my God, I'm stuffed up. There's a lot of snottage in the cottage. Oh my goodness. My Bootimus Maximus needs a colonoscopy. Oh my goodness. I got to get my ankle ripped off. I mean, everybody's just like broken down. Doug said, keep it going. Okay, we'll keep it going. So, Doug, you get to pick the next topic. Go right on ahead. The Master Blaster says he's gone. John Tibley says the Saints are about to come back. Scores 35-17. Let me pull this up. Oh, man, the Saints are bad. I do have a big Kyler Murray card. I'm a big believer in Kyler. They just need to get rid of their coach. Game's not over. You got Andy Dalton. He'll bring you back. What is that, 17-3 possession game? It's still a good stay alive. Got J.J. Watt. Okay, I got the game pulled up here. At least Chris Olave is good. But yeah, Doug, pick the next topic. We'll talk anything and everything LSU football. Go right on ahead, Dan. So Andy Dalton threw 2 pick sixes. Well, I guess we need Jameis back. Okay, you got to go for it here. It's 4th and 3. Don't punt. Whatever you do, do not punt down. Okay, it's the end of the 3rd quarter. If he punts, then you should get fired. Yeah, I'm always in the Discord. And that's why people... Oh, yeah, you got to hit me up about the basketball stuff. What's up, Jackson? Jackson, what you think? My favorite soccer player of all time got sacked today. Aston Villa and Steven Gerrard parted ways. Very interesting. But Brian Kelly said they're not going to scheme him out of this game. The thing is, and part of it is just, the simple truth. As great as you think Harold Perkins is, you know who else wasn't a factor versus Tennessee? Will Anderson. Will Anderson was not a factor at all versus Tennessee. good offenses do a good job of not allowing the other team's special athletes to be special. So, I hope not Jackson. I hope they just play him, just to play him, even if he's not, even if he doesn't read a defense as well as like Troy Polamalu at this point in his career. I think Harold Perkins reads the game just fine. Just play him. Well, he's out of position. So what? So, I wouldn't overthink it and just play him. Yeah, I hated it. I really did. So, Carter, this is random, but I feel like you could do a solid Heath Ledger Joker. Do you want to know how I got these scars? What about the baby?
No, I'm going to bed, Carter.
You want the baby?
I was in the bed.
You're in the bed?
Yeah, I was.
Okay. Well, you can go to bed. She can stay in here with me.
Okay.
Go. You really going to bed?
Yeah, I'm going. I was in the bed when you text me. I'm tired. Come on, Z, let's get a treat. Don't you? Come on, let's go get in the bed.
Good night.
Come on, let's go. Come on, Z.
Yeah, for sure. Alabama looks very beatable. Now, is LSU as good as Tennessee or Texas? No. If LSU were to play Tennessee right now in the game where it was played in Tiger Stadium, Tennessee would be no less than probably like a 9-point favorite. And the same thing for Texas. If Texas played in Tiger Stadium tomorrow, they would probably be a 5.5 to 6-point favorite. Their teams are better than us, but let's see how they look versus Ole Miss. But I think Alabama versus LSU will be probably, if LSU gets blown out, Alabama will be 13.5, 14-point favorites. Well, you shouldn't be. I told you leading up to the game that freaking I'll say this. Tennessee's really good. Tennessee's a really good football team. I warned you. Okay. You will not believe how many messages I got from people saying, Carter, you're an idiot. You're overrating Tennessee. They're not gonna win the SEC East like you say, and they might not. But I told you they'd be really freaking good, and they're really freaking good this year. Yeah, I had them losing to Bama but beating Georgia, but I said it was going to be close. And Tennessee caught the lucky breaks and won that game. So take that, generic snacks. Hey, John Sibley is our Texas expert. Oh, you think LSU could stay with Texas? I think they could as well. I guess I gotta try this. Part of it is like I don't know. I'm not really that great at quoting and impersonating. Wait, did the Saints punt? The Saints punted down 3 possessions? Vandy or Mizzou this weekend? Let's go Mizzou. They've been playing okay. I actually I actually had Mizzou in the over 5.5. I had Tennessee over their total. I had Ole Miss over their total, and had Mizzou over their total. We will know on Monday, but more than likely, yes, because CBS would be crazy to not carry Tennessee, Georgia as their 2:30 game. Crazy. Yes, Bama is beatable. Think the over hits for LSU? Yes. Easily. Yes. Do they get 2 double headers? I thought they only got 1 double header. But please correct me if I'm wrong. Once again, thanks to our top super chatters this evening. Van, Jared, Doug, the usual suspects. I really appreciate you guys so much carrying me when I've been I felt like trash earlier. I feel like trash right now, to be honest. And my Wi-Fi's out. I'm using a hotspot. So hopefully the connection's been okay tonight. He's got to be on the top of his passing game every weekend. So this is a play that I think LSU needs to do versus Ole Miss, right? I think if Ole Miss comes out and plays a lot of man coverage, this play will work out this weekend, okay?
Let's go! Come on, you know you love it. All the way from Chi-Town. Got some new Maltonati's pizza. Let's talk about this play right here. 3rd and 8. Really good call right here by Mike Dimbrock. I like that we're doing more pre-snap motion with the wide receiver. I think that is always the better version of pre-snap motion. Good job seeing Kayshawn going. And all we're doing is essentially doing what we did last week for Mason Taylor on the 3rd and 14 completion. It's kind of like a screen and roll in basketball, a little pick play to set this up. And why is this such a good play? Well, it's quick, it's easy, it's a one-read thing. It's a throw, high percentage throw, right? But the biggest thing is that you don't need to have great protection, okay? Because they call a nasty blitz and they get unblocked A-gap pressure. And because of that, and we're running something quick, we are able to get a nice, easy completion right here to the Florida killer, Jaray Jenkins. Let's go! I think John decided at the last second to try and help protect against this. I don't know if that was a protection mistake. And Ventrell Miller, their best players, coming through untouched. JAYDEN does a good job getting rid of it. Good accurate throw. I know it's a little pixelated, but good stuff.
So Auburn actually tried to run Hosh Juke on that's on my face. Auburn tried to run Hoss Juke on Ole Miss, and they actually got sacked. Hoss Juke's a tough play, right? Because you're in 5 wide, and Ole Miss has a good pass rush. So that's the one thing about Hoss Juke is you got to run it out of empty. So there you go. Once again, offer still stands. If you join the PHL T-shirt club tonight, get yourself a Jacob Hester card. Autograph card. I love me some Hoss Juke. I've gotten so many texts from people, hey, I'm not watching tonight because of the Saints game, and they're losing by a gazillion points. But they're coming back, or at least I think they are. The second doubleheader is November 12th. So who's going to be the doubleheader for that game? Do they, I don't know. I think we lose this one and Bama and then went out for an 8-4 record. That's pretty good, honestly. I would love that, honestly. What's Bama favored by? You know, last year they got Mississippi State in this spot. Mississippi State looked bad last week. That's the one thing. Once you start thinking they're good, Mike Leach comes back down to earth really hard. $21-point underdogs, Mississippi State. 21-point underdogs. You hope Bama covers? Hoping a 9-3 record. That would be amazing. That would be absolutely amazing. Eight and 4, 7-5 is never bad though, in a coach's first year. So I just pulled it out. So the Saints just scored, and they should go for 2 here. Okay. They should go for 2 to go on ahead and make it a 10-point game. No, they kick it to make it an 11-point game. So it could be a touchdown, 2-point conversion, and field goal. I would have gone ahead and gone for 2. But to get the extra point now, it's an 11-point game. Can't wait for next year. It should be LSU's year. Yeah, you know, that just looks so bad. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know. It's a bad look. There's no other way around it. I understand you just lost and you just played a high-intensity game, and there's people storming the field, and there was a video a few weeks ago, the Texas Tech fan shoving the Texas Longhorn player leaving the field. You still can't hit somebody. And apparently Burton hit somebody else. You still can't hit somebody, right? But that's the thing, you know, like, you can go a lot of different places and never feel the intensity that you feel at the end of a college football game. It's a little bit different than like a musical concert where you know going into the concert you're going to have a good time. They're going to play the songs that you like and you know what you're going to get. A football game, especially one like college football, there's all this pent up roller coasters of emotions that you don't know how it's going to end. You don't know how you're going to feel by the end of it. It's crazy. But you just can't hit people, right? Yeah, Carvis, you can go on Twitter and find it. It's very blurry. It's very pixelated, but there's got to be more video. There's a clearer video of him pushing a male fan, but there's another one where, you know, he doesn't like hit her flush, but there is some contact. 9-3 to me is an 80% chance. That is a pretty high likelihood. I'll take that. It's a little bit lower than that in my estimation, because that means you lose versus Bama, but you win all the rest of your games, right? And for LSU to beat Ole Miss, Arkansas, UAB, and Texas A&M when 2 of those games are away from Tiger Stadium, 9-3 is very optimistic, and I would be thrilled. Brian Kelly will get Coach of the Year votes if it gets to that point. But honestly, Heupel is going to be the pretty clear favorite to be Coach of the Year. Or if Lane continues to win, it'll be Lane. Let's see what happens here.
Carter, can you please help me corral her?
Try to go to
I'm
bed.
so tired.
Try to go to bed.
You know, Chief, let's go get a peanut butter, Chief. Come on, let's go get a peanut butter, Chief. You want peanut butter, Chief?
She's trying to get a chew.
Come on, go get it, Chief.
Well, all right. I'm going to go help corral the dog real quick. Don't forget, if you want my score prediction, I got it for you right here. Go subscribe. I had a few of you say you're not subscribed to the Power Hour LSU podcast. Okay? Get my full score prediction and more of me right here. Power Hour LSU. Okay? Now, a little bit earlier, Zach asked me if I was going to be in the Patreon Discord. I will be there. Okay? I'm chatting with Zach right now. Come hang out in the Patreon Discord. Jared's going to be hanging out in there as well. And that's where I'm going to be, just chatting with the fans, okay? Just a little bit a month. You get to support me. You get to have my advanced LSU versus Ole Miss film study, a few extra film study breakdowns I've done versus the Florida game and all of that. The Power Hour podcast. There you go. All right. John Sibley, my friend. Power Hour LSU podcast, rss.com/Power Hour LSU, or you could just search the Power Hour LSU podcast. Okay. Talk to you soon. It is the PHL live stream, baby. Big thanks to our guest, Nick Suss. If you missed him, guess what? It's like a completely different show if you just joined us. It'll be available for you right now. Okay. And tonight, we are some like beef teriyaki. Let's go. Let's freaking